Well, January was quite joyous, wasn't it? Can the Stags push on in February and make it a fantastic February? See what I did there? Shall I press the music? Yeah. All right, I'll grant you that the 0-0 draw against Wycombe was frustrating and boring to watch at times, but it meant that the Stags ended January still unbeaten in 2026. Let's face it, none of us had that on our bingo cards. 2-0 down after 20 minutes at Barnsley on Boxing Day, did we? The January transfer window may have been a frustrating one too at times when we lost our best player, but a deadline day addition on loan from Tottenham Hotspur has certainly perked us all up a little bit, and we secured Tyler Roberts on a deal until the end of the season as well, a permanent deal that is. So all in all, it was actually quite pleasing. We'll talk about what perhaps was one of the best January transfer windows for many a year, and a great January on the pitch too, and look ahead to what could potentially come in fantastic February. Have your say in your team, or on your team even, in the live feed comments. This is the third time I've recorded this intro now, I ain't doing it again. So, let's say hello to live feed, shall we? Strap yourselves in, it could be one of those nights. Thank you, pre-recorded me. Hello, this is the live me. It is Wednesday, the 4th of February at 25 to 8 on your Wednesday evening. Thanks so much for joining us to talk all things Mansfield Town. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. I figured it out. I know what's making things go a little bit AWOL and a bit awry tonight. It's the fact that we've not done it on a Thursday. We were intending to do the podcast yesterday, but I was on my deathbed, as you can probably hear and tell from the Rudolph nose. And yeah, then we've had people dropping out left, right, and centre today. So it is a hastily assembled podcast. Who knows if we'll make it through the full hour or not? Well, what we do say is that thanks so much for your company. And as always, get involved in the live feed comments and have your say on your team. However, as much as I'm sure you would love to sit and stare at me and listen to me moan on for an hour and have conversations with myself. No, they wouldn't. Yes, they would. Comedy. I have assembled two people to join me on a conversation, all things Mansfield Town. Let's say hello, good evening, and welcome to the man who I can always rely on, and the man who is ready for all things Mansfield Town in February is Mr. Clive Park. Good evening, Clive.
Hello, Craig, you brave little soldier, you. Hello, everybody.
Thanks, mate. I feel like a brave little soldier tonight. I've got all my drinks set up. I might disappear off to blow my nose and get a restock drink at some point. But I feel like I'm fighting through, Clive, just for you.
You're very good. I think the whole nation should applaud you.
This is why we're not award winners. Let's say hello, good evening, and welcome back to the UK to a man who has spent the last 2-3 weeks playing with toy cars, and apparently is off to play with toy cars again tomorrow. Evening, Cam.
Good evening. How are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How was toy car racing?
Stunning. 2 weeks in the middle of Germany at a sports hotel. 4-star, 5-star hotel. Pool, sauna, gym, good food, good view. Yeah, it was good.
No gym. No gym tonight. It's just me, you, and Clive. No gym.
8-star jokes. See, this is why we should have won an award.
Exactly. Obviously, we are a few members light on the podcast panel tonight. Obviously, Nathan, for reasons that you all know, we were sending him all our best wishes. I think his operation's booked in for a week on Friday, so we're sending him all our love and best wishes. No Nick tonight. No Alan either, because a huge congratulations to him. He's become a granddad for the 4th time. Congratulations to him and his family who've welcomed little Arthur into the world today. And no Jim, as we said, either. So this is the 3 that you've got. As always, if you want to fire your comments and questions in the live feed, please do feel free to do so in the comments. We'll briefly talk about the 0-0 draw against Wycombe on Saturday for 2 reasons. 1, Cam didn't see it. 2, I can't... Actually, 3 reasons. 1, Cam didn't see it. 2, I can't remember what happened. And 3, it was that dull, apparently. there's not much worth talking about, is there, Clive? To be fair.
No, I've racked my memory, and I can't remember too many games as flat and drab as that over the years. But I take an upbeat view of the whole thing at the moment. We are undefeated as a result of a very flat and drab game.
It was a poor, flat and drab game, Cam. But like Clive said there, the most important thing is that we've remained unbeaten, and to get through the entirety of January without losing a game, I think is a huge achievement considering where we were in December.
Yeah, one of only a few sides that are unbeaten in 2026, and one of a very few sides unbeaten in all competitions in 2026 so far. So, yeah, like we say, the misfortune that maybe we had in December has kind of balanced itself out a little bit. We've had the exciting Christmas period and the exciting New Year, the FA Cup, and then the last the last 3 games have been a bit meh. Stevenage, I mean, probably should have won that on the grand scheme of things, but you can't have it your own way. We had such a good run, and now we're just going through a bit of a lull at the minute. And I think it's just getting bodies back and just finding our rhythm again. I think it's better to draw a game than lose a game. We weren't brilliant against Plymouth. We weren't brilliant on Saturday, and I think that the important thing is that we didn't lose them. It doesn't matter if we don't win them. We just don't lose them. A point is better than nothing. And throw it back to the end of last season, how fortunate we were that during that winless run that we went on post-Christmas, that we did draw so many games, because that's what saved our bacon in the end.
Yeah, and I think another key point in that, Clive, as well, is like Nigel Clough said, some of the performances that we had in the last 3 games, well, probably last 2 games. I think Plymouth was definitely drab for half an hour or so. We weren't in the game at all. Wickham again for 20, 30 minutes. We weren't in the game. Couldn't string, 2 passes together. Liam Roberts again made some vital saves to keep us in the game. But like Nigel Clough says, if you want to look at comparisons and parallels to and growth of where we were, this time last year, playing like we have in the last 2 games for long periods, we would have lost games, and we're not doing that now, and that's given us a good foothold to go forward, Clive.
It is, but there is a common thread through these last 3 games. I mean, yes, we should have won at Stevenage. It wasn't a very exciting game, but we should have won. It was the referee who denied us that in the end. That's going to happen. But the last 2 games, Plymouth and Wickham, were both awful from one single perspective: midfield. We had no midfield in either game, and so we were humping the balls up to a forlorn, thin attack line. And it's no surprise, therefore, we weren't able to continue scoring 3 goals a game, which we had been before. And the reality is, through injuries and suspensions and a little bit of lack of form, we haven't had any midfielders. The defence is doing a fairly good job, I think, certainly supported by probably the best goalkeeper in the league. And you can't have a go at the attack, because quite honestly, they can only use what they're given, and they were just not getting anything to feed on. And in fact, against Plymouth, Oates could have taken a blanket and had a picnic in a quarter of the pitch he was left to sit down in, because he never saw the ball. It got to the point where their defenders said, well, leave him alone. They're not passing to him. They've obviously fallen out with him. Therefore, we don't have to worry about him. We'll put an extra player on another player. I'm joking, of course, but that was as stark as it was for me. But behind everything, clean sheets. Apart from when we were denied one at Stevenage, should have had a clean sheet there. That's the basis of moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing to sort of highlight in there, Cam, is that lack of midfield. And I was saying it, all through sort of November, December. If we lose James McDonald, we're going to be in a bit of a pickle. And what's not helped is, coinciding with losing him, is Lewis Reed getting suspended. We have now brought a more defensive-minded midfielder in George Abbott, who looks to be a great signing. We'll look back on all of January's business shortly indeed. But we simply had to bring in a defensive-minded midfielder, because, McDonald leaves a large gap. Losing Lewis Reed leaves a large gap. And if I'm being brutally honest, as much as I love his enthusiasm and his attitude towards all things Mansfield Town, Aaron Lewis is inconsistent at times, and I think in the last couple of games or so has definitely looked a little bit lost.
I think it comes back to that thing of just having the right players alongside them. I think you look at the way that we performed earlier this season. I think it was Wickham away when we'd not got Jamie McDonald because he was on international duty, and for whatever reason we didn't get international, even though we had enough, whatever. And you look how lost we were, and Reed looked lost a lot without him, and it's just that balance of you've got Reed that can play a pass. McDonald will get stuck in with a tackle. Don't get me wrong, Reed will get stuck in with a tackle, but you'll never see a player like Jamie McDonald again at Mansfield for a very long time. They just don't exist anymore. It's that he's a unicorn. They just don't exist, and it was always going to be a big loss.
Interesting. He didn't play last night for him, did he?
I believe he's picked for knock.
He pulled his groin.
No, a post-Mansfield knock.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was. They lost against Birmingham on Saturday, and apparently he pulled his groin before half time. So
It's the legacy of Phil Mill.
It is. It's lingered out. It's not touched him for all throughout his short spell with us. Just as he's moved on to pastures new, he's caught the bug.
But going back to our midfield, we're not abundant with midfield players. I mean, we've obviously got George Maris on a fairly long-term injury. You've got Hendry coming back from injury and yet to find the form he had before. Reed was suspended, and as you've said, Lewis is inconsistent and hasn't been on good form. So we're asking a lot of very little in these difficult times. But the good news is, of course, we have recruited. And it looks like Tyler Roberts is only a game away from being available to play. So I think, the signs are looking good. Reed's back, of course.
Yeah, of course. I think, it is looking a lot more positive, and Reed got some minutes alongside a few others in the Central League game on Tuesday as well, which was good. I think a 3-1 win at Derby. But the only worry there is we look at all these phenomenal players that are coming back, Cam. Tyler Roberts, Clive mentioned there, Regan Hendry. We look at, John Russell, who we brought in as well. We've got a lot of attack-minded midfielders who prefer to play the 10 role, and we were a little bit short of defensive players. Simon's just put a fair comment in the comments. However, I am going to have to issue one of those. Incorrect use of name. What do we think of Dave playing as a defensive midfielder? I personally think it gives us a bit of an option, Cam. It allows us to, especially when we're a little bit short, to fill those gaps. And he's comfortable playing there as well.
I mean, that's prior to coming to us. That's where he was playing, and that's where he played a lot of his career at. And obviously, he's a better centre back than he is a defensive midfielder. But I think again, you look at the players that who's playing alongside him. And sometimes we can get a little bit caught out in defence if we've got players pushing up too high. Elliot Hewitt likes to push high, Macca does, Fraser does, Bailey likes to push up as much as he can and play that pass through the midfield. So it is an option where if we are playing that style or that formation, he can then just drop back into that centre-back role and basically just swap places with Cargill or whoever's gone forward, and we can reshuffle in that. And we've done it before, and we do it all the time with Lewis Reed or dropping as the world's shortest centre-back. And it works. It allows players to get forward, but it's then going back to that thing of we've not got the personnel to do it at the minute because obviously Reed's been suspended. McDonald missed a couple of games or was out in international, and you could just see that we're still trying to play the same football and we're still trying to play the same system with the key players missing. And I think that's maybe a little bit naivety from Nigel not wanting to change it. But then again, it's that thing of we don't want to be changing things all the time because we found a style of football that works. And if we do that, then we just kind of... It's almost if we get confused and we don't know what we're doing. And I think we've seen that many times this season where we've just been a bit like, whoa, what are we actually playing? And like you look at Huddersfield, for example, in that game, 3-0 down after 17 minutes, we just looked so lost. And we'll be all right when we get players back, but it's that we just need the bodies back in to be able to play the style of football we know. And like Richard said, defensive midfielder at Burton, and they didn't rate him. Well, they didn't rate him as a player at all, and then he's come here and he swept the Player of the Year awards last season. So I think
the Clough effect, isn't it? It's all about how managers manage him.
I think Dave makes a good defensive midfielder in front of a solid back four. The problem we've got is when you take Dave out of that back four, you're taking a right footer out, and there's too much left footery behind him. Now with Hewitt's return, I guess we've got a bit more balance, and you've got Akins and Bowery kicking around there if we are desperately needing somebody else in the back line. So I have no problem with Dave being in that defensive midfield role because we lost somebody doing the role. I'm not sure it's the solution for the future, and I'm hopeful the new guy might take that responsibility, but time will tell.
Yeah, I think looking through all that as well, sometimes we talk about missing players and we make it sound like it's an absolute, horrendous job. But actually, through all of that, you strip all of that back, find the foundations, and actually we're unbeaten in 8 games, sitting pretty in the table, Clive. 11th place, plus 6 goal difference, 38 points, 10 points off the playoffs with a hefty amount of game in hands, and 7 points off the drop zone. The league is so tight, like we've mentioned week after week. There's no real ambition to try and push on for the playoffs. For me, the similarities are so stark with the year that we missed out on the playoffs by 1 goal on goal difference. It's about building and momentum. And I think, you look at the way in which we've ground out results since that opening 20 minutes at Barnsley on Boxing Day. I think we're really setting up to do that. Something seems to be clicking again.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think that we're sat in the middle waiting for something to happen. Now, there's only 2 things that can happen when you're in the middle. Well, there's 3. You can stop in the middle. The other 2 is you can drop south or go north. I think we're too good to drop south, but that's a dangerous statement. I think the reality is over this next month, the whole table starts to shake itself down, and it'll be clear who the ones who are involved in the fights either end are going to be. At the moment, it's indecisive because there's too many clubs all sharing too small a platform, but it will shake down, and we've all got to play each other. I think it's going to be an interesting second half of the season because of that reason. And if we're finding form now or getting players back to enable us to return to form now, that should mean we're looking north rather than south.
I think the thing about that on the back of that, Cam, as well, is you look at the next 2 games, and actually, again, it's one of those which could shape where we're heading, north or south. We play an Exeter side who, we beat down there at their place early doors in the season, who many sort of had highlighted to struggle this season. They're only sat a point behind us, 2 places below us, and then a Peterborough side who are again on the same amount of points as us. Worse goal difference, they're on -2, but sitting in the place below us. However, their form and their season has transformed absolutely rapidly since they got rid of their manager and brought the new guy in, and they're climbing in an upward trajectory. So the next 2 games actually could really give us a real showcase before we go into that FA Cup tie.
Yeah, and you just look at the form of both teams until the weekend. Exeter were on a really good run of form, and then they go and get destroyed by Rotherham, which makes no sense at all. But yeah,
Rotherham scored 3 goals in 4 minutes or something, didn't they, in that game?
I didn't think Rotherham were capable of that.
Well, that's what makes it an unnatural result, isn't it?
Yeah, literally. Rotherham are on such a odd run of form, and then Exeter were one of the form teams in the league. They'd massively turned things around again recently, and just finally found their feet, I think, to be honest. Obviously, they've.
One thing about Exeter, though, is they've not got a huge squad. They're not a hugely resourced club. But what they've managed to do is to play well as an 11, and they've not had the injury ravages that we've had. But every club does have injuries. We just don't see them as much as we see our own. But yes, they've turned it around a little bit because when we beat them at their ground, they were a nothing team.
The big thing for me is about being sustainable and going forward, because we actually look and we have to laugh sometimes and go, we actually got through that Christmas period, getting results at places like Bolton with a bench which was predominantly made up of Dom Dwyer and a youth team. And that's a huge statement. And now you look, and actually, we've only got two longer term injuries in George Maris and Jordan Bowery. Jordan Bowery won't be that far away from coming back. So actually, we've got pretty much everybody available. And with the new boys that we've brought in, it's now about trying to find our shape, our identity, and embedding those new players within the systems that we're trying to play again. And, you know, with a lot of football coming thick and fast, I think that suits us down to the ground for me, Clough. I think that really gives us that little bit of zip, because players will get opportunities. Clough, as we know, will try and stick with it as much of a settled 11 or 18 as he can. But when a player gets an opportunity, it's a real good opportunity for them, and a good headache for him to have. I actually genuinely can't name, when fully fit, a solid 11. I don't think we'd be able to agree on it.
I don't think Clough knows what it would be either. The reality is we've got players trying to make a name for themselves. That's great, especially when there's competition, because we haven't got the depth of injury crisis that we've been going through. And I think it's the right time of the year, as you've just said, to do this, because we've got the confidence of not losing. We might not have been playing spirited football, but we've not been losing. And I think we've got an interesting cup tie where I think the home side is going to be resting a lot of its first team squad, because their priority has got to be retaining their status in the Premier League. And I think it gives a chance for, a fair number of the squad to get involved going forward. I think once we come out the other side of the FA Cup fourth round, I think everybody will have a much clearer view of what the best starting team will be. But we've got some new blood. They've got to show themselves. We've got returning players. They have to prove they're as good as they were before. Great times in that respect.
Yeah, it's a much better quandary to have for me, Cam, than struggling to actually name a starting 11.
Yeah, we could. I think somebody on Twitter named 2 starting 11s by the time, and it wasn't including the injured players. So yeah, it's a nice situation to be in for once. Don't get me wrong, we are still majorly going to miss Jamie McDonald for the rest of the season, and we don't know what George Abbott's going to be like, because he didn't particularly do much at Wickham for the first half of the season, but he was injured in a team that wasn't doing particularly well at the time. Obviously beat us, but we were shocking that day. And again, another team that's kind of just turned the form around recently. So maybe he's a small answer to our problem. But he's a young lad as well. And I think you flip it the other way and you look at someone like Max Dickoff. Clough was obviously talking about him during the week in his presser yesterday, talking about it and saying, he's a young lad, he was doing well, and then sort of like tailed off a little bit and he needs to go out and get football. And it literally is that. I think we've had so long trying to get through games relying on these young lads. Like Bolton was, other than Dom Dwyer, was an entirely youth bench near enough. And we now, for once, we have a luxury as a Mansfield team. We've got depth. We've got strength and depth. And I couldn't tell you what we're going to do for the rest of the season, because I don't know. But I'd like to think we won't have the same problems that we had last season. Because last season, again, we had 1 or 2 players you could bring off the bench with a little bit of quality, whereas now we've got a full bench that's got quality.
It should mean that the players he's got don't have to, through necessity, play out of position.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing.
We've had 2 seasons of square pegs and round holes, and we understand the reasoning behind it. Now it would appear, notwithstanding a major incident, that we've got covering every position now, which is really good news for the club, because that means if you've lost somebody who's a specialist, you can replace him with someone who's equally talented in that area. Whether they're as good, it depends on the day. I mean, going back to, you mentioned Bolton earlier. I mean, we saw him the other day, and I have to say, there's got to be more to him than what we're seeing at the moment. He's
clearly, this is the problem, though, isn't it? He's like, with every player that's going to come back, they're clearly not at 100%. And Luke Bolton, for me, he might as well have not played. He
looked
wasn't
like a
good enough.
Spurs shirt, and if I'm being cruel, so be it. But he looked disinterested as well. That's
Yeah.
probably just a mannerism that is unfortunate. But he surely has more to offer than we've seen. And if that's the case, and he gets the chance and he produces it, that's another player we've got that we didn't bank on.
Always remember that game when we got absolutely destroyed by it.
Literally the only reason we signed him. So
Yeah.
we've done there what we did in the conference when we signed every player that Luton were after, so Luton couldn't get promoted. Classic tactics. Right, I'm going to come to some comments from Thomas and from Chris in just a second, but I'll do that after we've discussed January transfers, because it'll make more sense to answer those comments after we've taken a little look at all the incomings and outgoings. Now, I made this graphic about 5 minutes ago before the show started, not really being with it. So I'm sure somebody will spot a spelling mistake. I'm sure somebody will spot someone that I've missed off. If you do, don't point it out, because that makes you an absolute... Thank you. Right. Right. Incomings then, obviously 6 players through the door in January. John Russell on loan from Barnsley, Oliver Iro, of course, on loan from Tottenham, Big Vic from Bolton, Harry Lewis from Carlisle. We've paid a fee for a keeper. Made the deal of Tyler Roberts permanent as well, and then George Abbott on loan from Spurs as well. In terms of outgoings, Kyle McAdam and Jamie McDonald obviously went back to Nottingham Forest. We have still got Joe Gardner, but I believe he's still with Forest at the minute due to his medical issues, so we'll have him back at some point as well. Owen Mason and Max Dickoff both gone out on loan as well. Max Dickoff going to Tranmere on deadline day to get some experience there. And we've also given new contracts to Rhys Oates and Lewis Reed in that period as well. Let's first of all, Clive, talk about Harry Lewis, of course, brought in from Carlisle United. He's been with them a fair number of years, although many people will remember Harry Lewis from his time at Bradford City. Well thought of goalkeeper and a really good number 2 option there. It just seems a little bit of a weird one to pay a fee for a goalkeeper who's basically going to come and sit on the bench and try and push Liam Roberts as much as he can. But I'd rather that, I think, than keep hold of Owen Mason for the sake of keeping hold of a goalkeeper, because he needs to develop. And what we probably will gain in Harry Lewis is a bit more league experience and a bit more competition. And what we'll also gain in the roundabouts of Mason going out on loan is experience for him, which puts him in the shop window, which potentially turns him into a sellable asset come the next transfer window, should an offer be made for him, if that makes any form of sense.
Yeah, I think you've just answered it. The reality is this is all about Mason. It's not fair to a player, especially a goalkeeper, that's always going to get restricted opportunities anyway, to keep him just to cover another keeper. He needs to develop. He'll only develop by playing football. He isn't going to play football at his present level against the goalkeeper we have as a first choice here. So he has to go somewhere else to do that. And that's great for him. And whether we get him back and make capitalize out of him, and whether he ever breaks into our first team, is irrelevant. He has to go and develop his game. Now, then you need to get a replacement. Now, this is all about money. The guy could have sat on his contract at Carlisle, and not play, or he can come here and not play on more money. In
2 leagues higher.
In a League One environment, which makes him more attractive, subject to any other circumstance. So, and he's a family man. He's got so many paydays left in his locker. He wants to get as much as he can. You can't blame him for that.
No, and for all intents and purposes, Cam, as well, it's not like we've just signed another from the goalkeepers transfer list. We've put a lot of research and insight into this, and it wouldn't surprise me if it came out in the future that we probably tried to get him in the summer anyway.
Possibly. I think you've also got to look at this the other way. Owen Mason has slowly worked his way up the football ladder. He's now back at National League. He's only had half a season there already, or not even a half season there with Gateshead last season. Yes. Was
it York for a little bit as well?
No.
I might be wrong in that one. Yeah, I'm probably wrong.
I lost my train of thought now. There. So he's had half a season at National League, did quite well. He's now gone to a National League side for the rest of the season that's pushing a little bit more than what his other team was. So he was at Gateshead before, he's now at Southend, who are pushing the playoffs. So it's automatically a step up already, and he's already a hero because he saved a penalty and got man of the match in his first match. Brilliant, well done. You've got to look at it as he's had a half season already. He'll have the rest of the season now. Next season, you'd probably think he's going for another National League club for a full season, or two League Two teams for a little bit, maybe. I don't. It's that he's made that step up every season, and now it's a case of he's getting to that point in his career where he needs to a full season somewhere. So get him out, get him playing somewhere. Look for a good move for him on loan in the summer. See how he does. Again, if he's doing really well, you can recall him and send him somewhere higher. But it's the case of you send him to National League for a full season, then League Two for a full season. But by that point, we're 2.5 years in advance. Liam Roberts and Harry Lewis. Roberts, I don't even think will be here next season.
No,
I think that's maybe a little bit.
I do feel like that is half of the point in what we've done here. As much as I would love Liam Roberts to stick around and be, a long-term keeper for us, his stock will be massively high. I'm surprised there's not been bids already in January for him. He's obviously a very good goalkeeper, and he could easily push up another level and get a move back to the Championship or, a League One club with, I say this with the best will in the world in terms of where we are, the League One club that are more serious about challenging to win silverware in terms of getting in the top two rather than... Yeah. Exactly. You can reel off numerous examples, maybe even those clubs who come down, this at the end of this season as well. So I think we're looking at that in mind as well, which is a good thing. So it's a smart move all round, and it's just a shame we probably won't see, withstanding any injuries or suspensions, etc. We probably won't see Harry Lewis making a Stags appearance unless we go and watch a reserve team game. Or whatever. Let's look at the other bit of business, though, Clive. Obviously, we already know about John Russell, Ollie Iro, and Big Vic, because they've been with us a fair few weeks now. George Abbott on deadline day, another loanee from Tottenham Hotspur. Number one, it shows the relationship that we've got with Spurs. The third player we've had from them in the space of a year. Of course, we had Matty Craig from them this time last year as well. Simon mentioned in the comments, it would be unfair to compare him with Jane McDonald, and it will. But I do think he's going to come in to try and play that defensive midfield box-to-box type role, and it's just going to make our midfield just so fluid that it will just give us a little bit of a different turn in a different direction. He's an exciting player as well, isn't he? Notts County fans are absolutely gutted that we've got hold of him.
Yeah, he enjoyed his time at Meadow Lane. And you're right, he's a box-to-box player. I wouldn't describe him as, by definition, as a defensive midfield player. I think he can do a bit of everything. And he's young enough and ambitious enough to want to try everything that's available to him. And, of course, the thing about young players, they don't get cynical about stuff. They still believe they can do anything they want. And I like to see that. And it's as they get older, they tend to realise that there are certain things you just don't try anymore. When they're at that age, they go for everything. And I think it's great. And he's got a lot to prove. And he's never going to be unlikely these players are ever going to make the starting 11 at Tottenham Hotspur. It's an industry dragging behind the mainstream players. And therefore, it's teams like ours that have to develop them for them. And the reward for us is we get the performances without the huge capital outlay. And if they like being part of our team structure, we may have the opportunity to buy their contract at the end of the loan period. We've done that before. Equally, they may go on to do something elsewhere. I mean, the tactic of the whole league beneath the Premiership at the moment is to develop a player, sell them to a slightly bigger club, who then sells them to Wrexham.
Exactly, and it works
That's
beautifully well
for us. That works nowadays.
It works beautifully well for us. Not even going to have that discussion because nobody knows the true facts on what percentage is what. It's just a pointless.
By the way,
did
you notice McAdam's gone to Northampton? Did you notice that?
Yeah, poor Northampton. He's not good enough for League One, and I'm sure Northampton's It's All Cobblers to Me podcast will watch this back, clip up that bit, and play this back on their podcast when he scores the winner against us at our place when we play them. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's stick with Mansfield Town because Mansfield matters. And I want to address some of the comments. Thomas and Chris have been having a chat in the comments. Thomas kicked it off. Any worries with all these players only on contracts until the end of the season? Do we think they see us as a stepping stone to a better move in the summer, or do we think they'll stay permanent? Now, this is the interesting thing for me. It's clever transfer business from Mansfield Town, this, because I think the two players that he's referring to, Cam, are, of course, Big Vic from Bolton and obviously Tyler Roberts, who we've brought in on a permanent deal from Birmingham as well. We've not brought them in on deals until the end of the season, as in they've signed new contracts. What we've done is we've paid a little bit of a fee and we've just taken over their contracts. So their current contracts, what they were on at their previous clubs, we've just taken over. We've not offered them new terms or anything like that. But what we've probably have done within that, which we've not announced because it's not something we really need to know or anything, is we've probably negotiated within that deal that we'll have the first option on them in the summer when we will offer them better terms. I think with Big Vic, he's probably got ambitions to get himself fit and see where he is next season. But I'm 95 to 98% confident that we'll see him as part of Mansfield's plans next season. And I think Tyler Roberts is probably similarly. Had he not picked up his injury when he did, I don't think we'd have him now anyway. I think he would probably have been picked up by another club, probably at championship level, because he is good enough to play there. But again, it's all about relationships with the manager and how you're settling in. And I probably see us negotiating terms with him in the close season for another year's contract, or maybe even 2 years. It just is the simple fact, Cam, of we've just taken over the contracts that we're on, and they both happen to run out until the end of the season. And I think if you also look at John Russell, that's probably what we've done with him as well, albeit he's alone. His contract's up at the end of the season as well, and we'll probably look to sign him. It's just planting the seeds in the early stages of growing the garden.
Yeah, it is. And I think you've got to look at it the other way. We have not forked out a massive fee for any of these players. And they're all better than what we've got at current, or were better than what we had. And I think you've also got to, like you said, Big Vic's coming back from quite a lengthy injury layoff. What do you do? His ACL.
I think he was out for a year and a bit, wasn't he? Similar to Reece Oates.
So he was out for a long time. He's not played that much for Bolton this season. He's quite clearly not in their plans. So why not? It's that we look back and he's exactly the same as Dom Dwyer was last season. Right, but maybe that was a mistake because he wasn't playing at all. He wasn't even with the club when we signed him. And has gone disastrously wrong this season for one reason or another. But I'd like to think that we've done a little bit more due diligence around it and stuff, like spoke to the players. What are their ambitions? The club will know, and Nigel will know what those players are wanting out of being here, whether that's just getting game time in the case of someone like John Russell, or is it a case of they just want to be playing football, doesn't matter where? Hello, doggo. That's put me off. But you've also got to look, we are just strengthening. That's all it is. You've got to think the players that we've got, name a midfielder in our team that's better than Tyler Roberts. The other
exactly.
one.
I think that's the key point. It's risk averse. We've played it very, very, very well. We're not splashing a load of money. We're just going about our business sensibly. And at the end of the day, if those two players that we've signed on short-term deals, Tyler Roberts and Big Vic, turn around to us at the end of the season and say, do you know what? I don't quite fancy this. I'm going to have to go elsewhere. It is what it is. So, and we've not lost anything. We're just bringing two other players next season. So, high risk, high reward, but also I think within that, there's low risk as well. Right, and on that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have a little look ahead to our February fixtures. Lots to come thick and fast. And we'll talk surveys and see what our survey says right after these. Protect what matters most with Actifire Limited, your trusted local fire safety experts in Nottinghamshire. Proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters Podcast. From fire extinguishers and alarms to emergency lighting, pat testing and risk assessments, they've got everything you need for your business to stay safe. Affordable, reliable, professional. Because when it comes to fire protection, there's no room for compromise. Call Actifire Limited today or visit actifire.co.uk. Be ready, be safe, act now. Actifire Limited, proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters Podcast.
We're the Mansfield Matters crew, making podcasts just for you. Some show up, some disappear, but the Stags bring us all here. Through the ups and downs we stay, talking Mansfield Town every day.
You're back with the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday evening. Don't worry, Thursday fans, all of you out there who come up to me on a match day going, Craig, whenever you move it from a Thursday, you just disrupt my whole week. Every Thursday during February, because we play pretty much every Tuesday night as well. So lots of games coming thick and fast. Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. We were talking about transfers before that as well. Let's round off, Cam, on transfers before we talk all things surveys. And within the January transfer window as well, obviously we've talked about the incomings and outgoings, but within the January window as well, or the January time frame, shall we say, we've also extended two players' contracts. Rhys Oates and Lewis Reed have both signed until 2027. Again, it's all about, for me, there's so many similarities here to the January where in the season before we got promoted, in terms of putting those foundations and building blocks in place. It's really pleasing to see, and I'm sure that over February and early March we'll be doing the same with other players as well.
Yeah, and I think we've been so ill prepared in the past under previous managers, where we've for a very long period of when I've been following Mansfield, we've let our best players go because they've just refused new contracts. This is the position we would have been in with DKD had he have not been sold last summer, because his contract had been up, summer just gone, and we just end up missing out. And it's nice that the club are not taking things seriously, but we are building these foundations. We're making sure we've got players tied down. We're not having to worry about somebody else swooping in with a Bozeman clause, and it's just easier to not have to worry because we know we've already got X, Y, and Z players signed up for next season. Don't get me wrong, they could go for a fee in the summer, but then we're getting something for them rather than getting nothing because the contracts have run out. And they are two very important players to us at the minute. We noticed that Reed has been missing because our midfield's just gone to absolute pot. He's done well the last few months to try and turn things around, because obviously towards the end of last season it was probably the worst I've ever seen from him. You think, compare it to the season before and the season before, it was absolutely fantastic for us. And then he's sort of like had a recovery season, to be honest. And then you look at Oates, and we are now seeing the Rhys Oates that we've missed for such long periods of time. And again, getting him tied down to a new contract, brilliant, because he's proved that he's more than capable of performing at League One level. And I feel sorry for the lad, to be honest, because if it weren't for Liam Roberts doing what Liam Roberts is doing, I'd have said Oates is our player of the season.
Yeah, it's certainly been up there, Clough. I think what it does show, it shows loyalty, it shows commitment from the club that, we're not wanting to churn players over in every single summer. We're actually wanting to try and build a squad which is based on, a 5, 6, 7 year, cycle, really, and having those players staying with us long term. You think Jordan Bowery, Stephen McLaughlin, they've been here a long time. George Maris as well. It just shows that we're a club that people want to stay at. And in some cases, want to come back to as well.
Yeah, and I think you've got to give credit to the owners and the management team, because players, when they've got choices, will always go where they feel happiest, all things being equal. And I think we've been able to secure players on a longer tenure simply because they quite enjoy the environment. I think it also helps that this part of the world is not the most expensive place to buy a property. I think it helps that we're central, so people can commute from some of the major conurbations where they may have been before they came here. But I think the Clough factor is not to be underestimated here. I think the fact that people see the club is in a stable condition, and they've got a manager that's not arrived the day before they did. I think those things are magnetic in their own way. But at the end of the day, the big checkbook will always win. So we have to find other ways of securing that loyalty. But I don't see players, even though they may be attractive to other clubs, wanting to go easily. I think they'll only go if it's a very, very powerful reason. And the most powerful reason is a huge amount of money. So going back to our goalkeeper, somebody will see him as being a great acquisition, but they're going to have to pay a fair amount of money while he's under contract to us. And then under those circumstances, we behave like every small club does. You have to let them go.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's turn our attention elsewhere then. And about a week ago, Cam, the club put out on social media, click below to share your thoughts on your match day experience at One Call Stadium, and put together a little bit of a survey. And it's fair to say, Clive's already laughing, it's fair to say it got a little bit of negative feedback, didn't it, Cam?
Imagine my shock. I think, obviously, things at the Wonk have improved over the last 15 years that the Radfords have been here. But still, the words piss up in a brewery still spring to mind on many different things. Running out of hot water in the Bishop Street stand at half time, constantly running out of food, constant noise complaints from the marquee, putting a scoreboard somewhere that an entire stand can't bloody see the thing. And yeah, it's Mansfield Town. That's all you can sum it up as, really, isn't it?
I've just tried to click on this survey link, Live. I couldn't find it scrolling back through. It doesn't load up, so I think the survey is now closed. I was going to go through question by question.
See, I actually found it quite entertaining because I hadn't realised, when they say rated between 1 and 5, 1 being very little and 5 being absolutely everything. I didn't realise on every question there were 5 grades of shittiness because every answer was negative. I mean, they must have realised in asking the questions they were going to get mostly negative feedback. And it's not because we're a bunch of morons. It's not because one or two of us are. It's not about people saying, "Well, leap at the chance to have a go at the club." I'm certainly not one of those people, but I am not grown up enough to want to criticise when it's appropriate. And if you invite criticism, you've got to be able to take it.
Yes,
and then having heard it, then you've got to try and act upon it.
I think
now some of the problems that we have at the club are very difficult to deal with. Our kiosk facilities aren't big enough. Our toilet facilities aren't big enough. There's a real problem there because you can't just create space. Some of the methods we employ could be improved. Some of the merchandise range could be broadened. Of course, those things need to be seen to be done. No point in doing the questionnaire unless you're going to do something about it.
Now, this is my point on the questionnaire, because at no point in this entire survey, Cam, could you actually leave feedback which relates to the question. And you know as well as I do, as someone that works in marketing, that if you do a poll or anything like that, and you don't put any text box to invite comments back to it, and it's just data-led, you can manipulate the hell out of that data.
Oh, of course it can. Yeah. It's the easiest way of doing it, because we can just brush it onto the carpet as if it never existed. But like Clive said, there's just a lot of things, and I think I also think I personally think the problems that we have with the One Call Stadium purely relate to capacity. When we first came back after COVID, we had 2,500 season ticket holders. 4 years later, we've got 6,500. Guaranteed, week in, week out. And our poxy little ground built by a crook can't cope. Simply cannot cope anymore. And I think
just want to point your attention to that little
it's that
scrolling
bit
bar
down at
down
the
there,
bottom.
by the way.
That bit at the bottom.
Cam, I'm going to have to correct you. If you're talking about the previous owner of the club being a crook, be more precise. He was an evil fucking crook.
Yeah, fair. It was
The views
it was
expressed in this broadcast are solely those of the individual and not those of Mansfield Matters. Although I agree.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate
Crack
it.
on, Cam.
It literally. You think how much better would our ground be if the Ian Greaves stand was built 50 yards back? All right, it'd be.
Now, I'm gonna before we go down this I'm just gonna stop you before we go down this wormhole, because we will go off on a tangent there. We have to accept it is what it is, and this is my problem with the survey. I think we all as a collective accept it is what it is. The ground was built on a shoestring budget. It wasn't built in the right place or the right way round, or all of those complaints and things like that. What we have to work with is what we've got. And the problem I've got with the survey is what they've not allowed us to do is actually share our feedback to try and work with what we've got, aka better food, better toilets, things like scoreboard issues. For example, we've got this fantastic all singing, all dancing LED wraparound scoreboard now, which has really transformed us and allowed us to, offer better marketing to companies within Mansfield and nationals and all of this sort of stuff. But with it comes a couple of problems which they've not consulted fans over or not taken into consideration. Number one being, it's too bloody bright, and certain ones of the design, when it changes, I have to go like that. I can't watch the game for the 2 minutes that it's going around the ground because it's too bright. It's not balanced well enough. And then we have complaints about the scoreboard, which was obviously put in before we had all these LED boardings and things like that, and before Bishop Street was a thing. Well, the suggestion is there. It's not hard to pick 4 segments halfway down the halfway line, behind the goal, behind each goal, and etc., to dedicate a segment to just having both badges, the scoreline, and a clock. It's really simple to do, but by not putting in these comment boxes, they're not going to see that. And unless they sit through scrolling through the social media comments, they will not act on it. So my plea is this. If you're going to do a poll like this and try and get fans' feedback on the matchday experience, which, yes, has 100% improved over the last 15 years since the Radfords have taken charge of the club and made it a place to be proud of, people will always have complaints, and there'll always be room for growth. And if you're going to do these surveys, actually do it in a way which is not, basically a box ticking exercise to say 48% of people say this, 62% of people who are white males say this, 33% of people who are, 78 to 80 say this about the stairs. It's about letting us be honest and transparent. And actually, we are your customers. Listen to what we're saying and don't just use click data to try and manipulate something going forward, because it will not work. It's not good enough. And that's not the Mansfield Town Football Club that I want to go and attend. Give us the opportunity to actually speak and actually share our ideas, because you'll find when you do let us speak and listen to our ideas, we actually might have some that make it better for everyone and get more people through the door. Rant over.
Yeah.
Just to finish that off, and before we let Cam back in, the reality is you don't need a survey. What you need is better interaction between the board and the fan base.
Correct. And that is
and we have a little bit. We have a little bit of we have a little bit of interactivity through the SSA, but it's not representative of the whole supporters. The SSA is several hundred people. That we have. And it's good in that respect. But what we do need is to have a club that seriously wants to listen to fans. And I'm not picking Mansfield out as a club that doesn't. I don't think any of them really want to hear too much. But I think it's an opportunity lost. And you're right, surveys don't have, especially surveys that are clunky like this, don't actually give you a great deal of feedback. And people want to tell you what matters to them. And there was no opportunity on that survey, because it's very construct, that says, tell me about something specific. And so people were putting narrative on the Facebook page beneath the survey. Whether the clubs see that, read it, and act on it, difficult to tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
sorry, Cam, it was your spot.
Go on quickly.
Sorry, yeah, no, it just goes back. I think a lot of what we do is just a lot of patch and make do because we don't have the space to be able to do things. I think, like we were talking about with the kiosks and the facilities, we've got all the kiosks in the upper tier, both sides of the upper tiers that don't get used on a match day, and you've got an entire from literally K block upstairs to the rest of what are at the other end are sold out week in, week out, but you've only got one kiosk on either side that's actually open. And it's like, you've got people struggling. And I appreciate that those used to be able to go into into the Kevin Bird suite, but now you can't even do that because that's being used for hospitality. Great. Hospitality brings in a good chunk of money, but then that's fans that can't necessarily get a pint at a game, and that might sound really little, but it's a lot of disgruntled fans. And again, like, you've got I don't want to be drinking a hot Bovril at 3:00 on a match day, but by the time it gets to half time at nearly 4:00, maybe I do want one, but the water's run out because there's not enough. And the toilets in the Bishop Street, the water pressure's so low and you can't get hot water.
And it looks a bit like Bovril after half time in the toilet.
Yeah, it does look
It does.
like Bovril.
It does.
Can I just say there's a stark comparison on effectiveness, on commercial effectiveness. If you look at the kiosks, and I pick any of them, pick our best kiosk in terms of service standards and compare it to the burger van outside.
Yeah.
The burger van is commercial. It does well. It serves people quickly. It has a decent but contained range of food. People know what to get, know what to expect, and get it.
Yeah.
And they'll take cash as well, but that's another story. Our kiosks are very limited in the range they choose to and are able to show. They've only got so much in terms of hot retaining areas. They've got 5 or 6 young people behind there, only one of which is ever doing anything. In fact, no, that's not quite right. They have one young chap, and the one I go to, whose sole job is to put the lids on. And I think that's great. I mean, it'd be great for his career progression, I'm sure. But they are
Chief lid putter runner. Can you put that on your CV? Chief lid
if
putter
you
runner.
put it on well, then it's credit to you.
Hey, there'll be somebody out there who can manipulate that into a LinkedIn post. 20 things I learned about putting a lid on a hot drink.
We go to a lot of other grounds, don't we? And some of those grounds are less impressive than ours, but they do a better job at certain things. And catering is a good example of that. I mean, one of the least effective grounds that I've been to, and you've been there, Craig, is Harrogate.
Yeah.
And yet catering there at Harrogate is better because they make a better job of it. Now, what they've done there is outsourced it. Now, I don't know whether that's the solution, but you've still got to have the commercial oomph behind it. I'm not sure that selling a fixed number of pies and sausage rolls and one bucket full of hot water is the way forward. And I'd have to say that money isn't a great problem to me, but I do object to paying £3 for a cup of hot water and a tea bag.
Yeah, it is a bit mental. All I will say to round this thing off is Simon puts a good point in the comments. Do we have a fans liaison officer? I don't know. I think it used to be Diane, the club secretary, but sometimes it feels like these roles are a little bit box ticking exercise, and that they don't necessarily have the time to deal with it, or it's not publicised enough. And I think the second thing to say about it, and this wraps up the whole thing on it, is without the option to comment and talk about why and give an explanation as to why you've given a rating, data is absolutely meaningless. So the whole thing that the club have done in putting this survey out is waste everybody's time. Do it properly, put the energy into it, be prepared to take the flak for it, and ultimately we'll grow together as well. Now, there is one bit of data that I can guarantee is actual fact-ish, and that is everybody watching this show right now and everybody listening is thinking, Craig, when are you going to play the bloody podcast predictions jingle? The answer is now.
The game of the rock, who gives up, don't mess it up. I hear you say, how do you play? Win, lose, or draw, then pick a score, and one more thing. Pick a hero, don't score zero, that's the game. But we're not fools, this game has rules. Just on time, you'll be fine. Remember the rhyme. Podcast predictions. Podcast predictions. Remember the rhyme. Guess on time, you'll be fine. Remember the rhyme. Podcast predictions.
Just to wrap up before we start podcast predictions, Cam has done a little bit of research, which is completely bonkers. And we do have a supporters liaison officer / equality lead officer / how many slashes does this person want? Disability access officer. And it's Vicky Broughton. You can email Vicky, broughton.vicky.broughton@mansfieldtown.net. Search it on the club.
Yeah, it's in the who's who. It's vicky.broughton@mansfieldtown.net. So if you want to talk to her, because that is her job. Yeah.
Is this one of the Broughton family that are related to the Radfords?
That that thing that's going across the bottom of the screen? Yeah.
Yes, out of curiosity. I'm not suggesting.
Yeah,
it's in
I don't. Can we move on to podcast predictions, please? Colette in the comment says, I love this comment. Lid on boy got A levels. This is what they should do. This is how they should transform the whole match day experience, right? Turn it into an apprenticeship, mate. I got a level 3 and putting a lid on a hot chocolate. You get me? Get me into uni. Be great, right?
Listen. Being a good at lid on is better than going to uni. And living evidence is Cam.
I'm doing all right now. Thank you very much. Can
you put a lid on a hot drink and make it not fall off when the lids don't actually fit?
I mean, even better, I can make a brew in a Mansfield Matters mug.
I've seen your tea, and I wouldn't claim that it's a very good one. Right,
it's fruit tea. So.
What are you? Podcast predictions time then, shall we? Nobody, predictably, guessed 0-0 for Saturday. So most points scored were because of the fan seat player. And the winner with 14 points was Tim P, who picked up 14 points because he had Dave, who was the best pick of the bunch on Saturday. He picked up 10 points. For Saturday's performance. If you chose Blake Tracy or Sweeney, they'd have got me 9. Aaron Lewis would have got you 8. 7 for Liam Roberts. Russell would have got you 6. Henry 3. Cargill, Evans, Hewitt and Oates would have got you 2. Big Vic, Little Nobby Walsh, Bolton, Iro and McLaughlin would have got you 1 and -5 for everybody else. Now, I can hear you in the comments. Where am I in the table? January's done. When's February's table's going to be out? I'm going to put the full table out on social media tomorrow, probably. But it's time for the top 10. In 10th place with 250 points, it's Stags Chat. In 9th, Marie Wilson with 256. Clive is in 8th on 262, whilst Dave S is in 7th with 264. Steve Nadin on 266 is in 6th, whilst in 5th place it's me with 273 points. 10 points ahead of me in 4th place on 283 is Olivia Wilson. In 3rd place it's Limbo 74 with 285, which leaves Matt Piercy and Chris Vincent. Now, Matt Piercy has been leading the way for what seems like forever. However, on Saturday, the tables turned, and I can confirm that at the end of January, Chris Vincent is actually the leader of the pack. He's top of the table on 305 points. Matt Piercy has 298. So things really do change week by week, month by month, and there's plenty of fixtures to keep our eye on for this month as well. Starting with the home game against Exeter on Saturday. Cam, you're up for podcast predictions for Exeter, please.
Ooh, 2-0 win. And I'm trying to think who's going to be fit to play. Iro.
Okay, Clive.
Before I give you my prediction, can I just say that my contact at the football club has contacted me while you've been talking to say that Vicky Broughton is absolutely no relation to the Bradfords. So I stand
Just a
corrected if
big-
I suggested anything other than that.
Big old
Right.
dink.
Stags win 3-1 against Exeter, and my hero will be Reed. He owes us one.
He does owe us one, which is exactly why I'm going for the same player. But I'm going to go for a 2-0 win with Lewis Reed as my fantasy captain. Now on to Peterborough in midweek. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in that one, and I'm going to put Liam Roberts as my hero to make sure I don't score 0. So let's go back the other way, Clive.
Stags win 2-0. Liam Roberts.
Okay, and Cam.
2-0 win. Lewis Reed will pull out a blinder against his former team.
Lots of LRs going on here. People with the same initials. It's annoying. Right. As always, if you want to play along with podcast predictions, you can do so via the link in the description. A reminder that you must submit your guesses no later than 90 minutes before kickoff on your selected games. And yes, make sure you get involved with all that. And if you've got any complaints about podcast predictions and your points and all of that sort of stuff, don't come at me. I don't do the points, right? That's all I'm saying. Simple as that. Right, that is almost all we've got time for. I'm going to end tonight on a bit of a tribute to a man whose birthday it is. But before we do that, let's have a look at a very, very busy February, Clive. It is going to be a busy one. But like we said earlier, we've got the players who are capable of getting us through it. Lots of players wanting minutes. Lots of players needing minutes. And lots of good adventures to come as well. And also lots of opportunities to enjoy the brilliant data-led match day experience at the One Course Stadium too.
Absolutely. There's never been a better time for us to enter a busy period of February than the circumstances we find ourselves in now.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Cam, a big opportunity for players to step up. Who out of the new boys do you think is going to stake a claim for themselves?
I think
And nobody cares. As always, thank you so much for watching. And it's time now to wish Sid Pepper a happy birthday by playing this.
Hi, I'm Sid Pepper and I've got a plan for the Bishop Street stand. I'm your man. I'm your man. The walls are crooked and the paint is old, but I've got big plans that need to be told. When will it be done? They ask every day. I scratch my head and here's what I say. Just you wait till phase 3. It's gonna be a sight to see. The best damn toilets in the land at Bishop Street stand. Deadlines are coming, but the work's behind. It's all part of the plan, I remind. The scaffolding's been up since 2002. But trust me, folks, I know what to do. Just you wait till phase 3. Executive boxes, you'll agree. The best damn toilets in the land at Bishop Street stand. But Sid, they say it's taking too long. The porta potty smells so wrong. But I've got vision, can't you see? These fancy flushers will set us free. Budget's blown and the crew's all stressed, but our facilities will be the best. When will it be done? Don't ask me twice. Just trust old Sid, it'll be paradise. Just you wait till phase 3. It's worth the wait. You'll all thank me. The best damn toilets in the land at the Bishop Street stand. Maybe by next Christmas.
Happy birthday, Mr. Pepper. Good night. Thanks, live me. Back to slightly ill me now on the pre-recorded thingamawhatsit-majiggy. Sadly, that is all we've got time for on tonight's Mansfield Matters podcast. My thanks, as ever, to the Mansfield Matters podcast panel, and of course, to you guys for watching and for listening at home. Back to Thursday next week. Sorry for disrupting your weeks. Am I? No. As always, if you want to play along with podcast predictions, you can do so. It's now been reset for February with our brand new signings added to the list and those that have gone out removed as well. So get involved for the Exeter game on Saturday and the Peterborough game on Tuesday. A reminder, you must submit your guesses no later than 90 minutes before kick-off, and you can't pick the same player 2 games in a row, otherwise you lose points. That's all we've got time for. I'm off for a lie down. We'll see you next Thursday at 7:30 on the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Good night. Protect what matters most with Actifire Limited, your trusted local fire safety experts in Nottinghamshire. Proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters podcast. From fire extinguishers and alarms to emergency lighting, pat testing and risk assessments, they've got everything you need for your business to stay safe. Affordable, reliable, professional. Because when it comes to fire protection, there's no room for compromise. Call Actifire Limited today or visit actifire.co.uk. Be ready, be safe, act now. Actifire Limited, proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters podcast.